Hello everyone, my name is Animesh Kumar Mehto and this is the fourth video. We were discussing about the microeconomics. This is the fourth video. Basically, in this video we will be discussing about the demand curve. Along with that, we will be discussing about the supply curve. Along with that, we will be discussing about the price elasticity. This is very important video and the types of price elasticity. I will be explaining each terms, in a very practical manner. So keep listening. Well, demand curve. It is basically a negatively sloped curve that basically says that if the price of any commodity increases, its demand of quantity decreases. Okay, price increases, demand decreases, or quantity of that demand decreases. That's it. It's very simply, but it comes up with a catch, that is, your income must be constant, your preferences must be constant, and along with that, if we were talking about some commodity, the uh, the same commodity with a different product must also remains constant. The price of that commodity also remains constant. The substitute also remains constant. The price of the substitute also remains constant. That's it. The curve is negatively sloped. Okay, and if you look at this, the slope, the negatively slope, it keeps on changing if the different other factors, for example the income, other goods prices is also constant, and preference is also constant. If these things changes, the curve will keep on changing. That's it. So how it affects, it is based on basically types of goods. There are two types of goods, that is giffen goods, and one is uh, Veblen goods, that is non-luxurious good and luxurious good. Okay, let's take an example with this. So uh, let's talk about an example of liquor. Okay, so there are some branded liquors and there are some local liquors. So branded liquor and local liquors both are commodity, are of under same commodity. The local liquor are the substitute good of that branded liquor, and chakna that we eat with the liquor, this is basically a complementary good. Okay, so the thing is, we're talking about how is demand curve changes based on the goods. First of all, for non-luxurious good, this graph is a very mm, very same, that is negatively sloped. But if we come up with the luxurious good, for example, if you take iPhone, people have their own preferences. Okay, so if the prices of iPhone increases, it does not mean the valuation of that good, that iPhone, decreases, or people won't buy that. So it basically, if price increases, demand also increases. The people will perceive that thing will be more luxurious, more productive. These are the demand curve. Let's talk about the supply curve. Supply curve is basically for the production side. For example, if I own a commodity, I own a company, a firm. So if the demand of my quantity increases, what I will be doing, I'll be increasing my price just to cater the supply demand balance. So this is about the supply curve. It is it is positively sloping curve, and there comes a point in which the demand curve and the demand curve is negatively sloped and the supply curve is a positively curve, and there comes a point in which they both intersect, and that point is equilibrium. Okay, so what is price elasticity? Price elasticity is basically a thing in which if you increase or decrease the price, and how that increase and decrease will affect the demand of that commodity, of that product. That's it. What are the types of price elasticity? That is perfectly elastic demand. What is this? In which if you change the price of any object very negligible, it will just drastically change the demand of that product. For example, uh, let's take an example. Wix. price of X is 1 rupees. Okay, if suddenly the company declares that the price of that this commodity, that this Vix will rise, there will be a shift of demand. It may not be a perfect example of that, but there are a few products in which if you change, that is very price sensitive objects. So these are the perfect elastic demand. You will get the next example very familiar. For example, that is relatively elastic demand. That it basically means that if you change the price, it can slightly change. It can slightly change in the quantity of the demand. For example, we see Campa Cola rising. The competition for that Campa Cola is Coca Cola and Pepsi. It prices about like 15 rupees per bottle, 20 ml bottle, and Campa Cola gives the same amount of the same quantity, like with very less amount, 10 rupees for example. But the problem with that is, we people, we have no we have a particular we have developed a taste for Coca Cola or Pepsi for a long period of time. So what is the issue? Issue is that why would I want to shift my taste? Why would I do that? Because I have a particular taste for me. There are a few things that are not so much of based on price pricing factor, but this is the relatively elastic demand. Yeah, there's a slight change in price, there's a high change in demand. There are a few things. Okay, so yeah, our next point is relative inelastic demand. It is basically, if you keep on increasing the price, if you change the price a bit, but there will be very slight change in the demand. For example, iPhone, for example. Okay, so if you increase the price of that iPhone, it does not mean that the demand of that iPhone will decrease. This is the people who want that, they want that. Just basically that. For example, ration that we eat, if you just keep on increasing the price of any commodity, for example flour, it but people have to eat now, so that's why you cannot just change the demand curve that much easily. The perfectly inelastic demand, in which the if the price of any commodity keeps on changing drastically, it it will not change the demand of it. For example, the price of medicines, you cannot do that. You cannot compromise on the demand, the quantity of the demand. It have nothing to do with the demand supply curve. Well, income elasticity, and like in this lecture itself, I've talked about a thing that is complementary good and supplementary good. Complementary good, that is something that we take along with the main commodity. So the how the substitute prices also increases and decreases based on the commodity of the pricing. So for example, there is a commodity X and there is a commodity Y. No, sorry, the same commodity. There is a product X and product Y. If the price of that product X keeps on increasing, that means its demand decreasing. And if the same time, if the complementary good, the substitute good, if it do not change its pricing, that means people will shift towards the product Y. It is basically the cross price elasticity, how these are interconnected with each other. Thank you so much.